Thank you, and good morning. I add my thanks to everyone that you have been thanked by this morning for your love and commitment to your neighbor, and thank you for the honor of addressing you today, Samaritan Ministry. So my happy task, as you heard, is to help us all honor the 12 founding Episcopal churches whose lay and clergy leaders first came together to form Samaritan Ministry, and those who joined shortly thereafter. And if you turn into your program at the very back, not the partners in 2026, but Samaritan at 40, do you see the list of the congregations at the bottom? Will you say their names with me, please? All Saints, Chevy Chase, Maryland. St. Albans, Annandale, Virginia. St. Albans, Washington, D.C. St. Andrews, Burke, Virginia. St. Columba's, Washington, D.C. St. Francis, Great Falls, Virginia. St. Francis, Potomac, Maryland. St. John's, Olney, Maryland. St. Luke's, Bethesda, Maryland. St. Mark's, Washington, D.C., St. Stephen and the Incarnation, D.C., St. Thomas's, Washington, D.C. In words attributed to the anthropologist Margaret Mead, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. And if you're looking for inspiration in a cultural climate that thrives on keeping us apart and angry with one another, I would encourage you to read a small booklet, The Parable That Led to a Partnership Against Poverty, A History of Samaritan Ministry of Greater Washington. It was written by David Richardson in 1996 on the occasion of Samaritan Ministry's 10th anniversary. By the way, in 1986, as a personal aside, I was a seminarian at Virginia Seminary, and I had my eyes on Washington, D.C. And the leaders of several of the parishes at the heart of D.C. were spiritual giants for me. And they remain so to this day. This short history describes in detail how a ministry of compassion based in one congregation, St. Stephen's in the Incarnation, and informally supported by others, became an organized collective endeavor of 12 congregations whose leaders came together for a common purpose. And the founding legal document began not with legal ease, but with a faith statement. We sense that Christ is calling us to do the work of Good Samaritans across boundaries of state, city, and diocese. And I just want to flag for a moment how extraordinary that was across state, city, and diocese. And the founding values of that founding 12, to emulate the compassion of Jesus by doing everything possible to meet basic human needs through practical and efficient means, to move people out of crisis into stability and dignity in manners that foster their growth and independence and that empowers them, and to do this renouncing feelings of superiority and acts of paternalism. To raise questions about the injustice of poverty in the midst of affluence and about public policies that lack compassion. To engage causes as well as victims, and to reform as well as to remedy. To draw people to Christ through these ministries as Christ's agents, although never to make them join a church as a condition of receiving help. So the first board of directors meeting took place in January of 1986 with members representing these 12 congregations. They formed a budget, they hired staff, They got to work recruiting even more volunteers and serving their neighbors with emergency food, financial aid, and employment counseling. And that startup year saw immediate growth in partnering congregations and those they could serve. And surprise of all surprises, there were also challenges, disappointments, failed endeavors, and the inevitable tensions brought about by the diversity of congregations at the heart of Samaritan Ministry in the early years, a diversity that remains and has expanded to this day. Hear this: some were large, with resources of money and volunteers, while others were small and struggling. Some parishes favored social advocacy and a more aggressive stance as a prime weapon against poverty. Others preferred a more conservative approach, downplaying confrontation. Yet, surprising as it may appear, the Holy Dozen, as one irreverent member dubbed the 12 initial parish partners, they surmounted one difference after another, by making adjustments and reaching compromises as they went along. We established such unity back then, recalled Richard Dowd, as to serve as a model for governance of such a partnership. All seemed inspired with a willingness, no matter what came up, to put aside other agendas and stay focused on our shared mission. And so those first 10 years were years of expansion, geographically and programmatically, as Samaritan Ministry established first a site in Southeast Washington, a literacy program through Washington National Cathedral. The founding director, Donald Burns, resigned, and after an extensive search, Carter Eccles from Church of the Epiphany was called to lead next. And then it was in her tenure that the next step process, now at the core of Samaritan Ministry's offerings, was institutionalized. And the organization began to pivot somewhat from an array of direct services to a more focused approach towards self-sufficiency, independence, and dignity for their participants. And in that first decade, Samaritan Ministry leaders placed tremendous focus on another critical need, transitional housing, which resulted in the establishment of an entire new entity, the Transitional Housing Corporation, now known as Housing Up. And that was also when Samaritan Ministry became an ecumenical organization, partnering with Christ Lutheran Church. So these years, these 10 years, and the history that describes them, they were filled with hope and expansiveness. And we are here today to honor and to thank the visionary founders of the organization we love so much. Some of you are in this room. Others have died. Others have, I don't know, maybe they've moved to Florida. Don't know. But I was struck reading the history of Samaritan Ministry of how many of its early leaders were the very same people who welcomed and mentored me when I came 15 years ago to lead the Diocese of Washington, and whom I still consider the spiritual elders of our community. And so, from the vantage point of 2026, we're really tempted, I'm tempted, to look back with longing at those years and those plucky, roll up your sleeves and get to work, shared endeavors of those founding members, and the vision that led them to organize themselves into such a powerful collective. And never once, by the way, was a bishop's name mentioned. Shocking. So, in the midst of our celebration and the inevitable nostalgia and longing that looking back affords, we're just not in the same time. It's not the season, we're not in an expansive time now. We are in a protective, consolidation, protecting, planting time. We have to preserve resources. We have to think strategically in different ways. We have to pay attention to the realities and the forces at work around us. What's needed now? Where are our capacities now? And what of that core charism of our founding spirit remains and is poised to be transformed? So we aren't to fear this moment, but to embrace it. And actually to expect it, you know? The seasons of history, the cycles of progress and regression, they're nothing new to people of faith. It's a time to listen deeply to one another, the context in which we live, to the Holy Spirit that animates and inspires us all, so that we can protect and preserve as much as we can, adapt, plant seeds that may come to fruition long after we are gone, and to pay attention now to those who are our rising visionaries, who will guide us through the Spirit to a future beyond our sight. So, here we are, for a time such as this, for a moment that is ours, and for a ministry that has been entrusted to our care. Heartfelt thanks to those of you who have been through thick and thin over the years, from the beginning until now, and all those who have come in the stream that is Samaritan Ministry since then. And may we do our part to take this vision forward and to see where God will lead us next. Thank you so much for allowing me to share this moment with you.